Are we going? Are we going? Hello there, friends, and welcome back to Max Answers Writing Advice Questions! Today, on today's episode, you have sent your questions, NaNoWriMo's in full force right now, and I've got answers. I've got my trusty random number generator, though I think I'll be tackling things like I did in the Writing Advice Answer-a-thon, where I actually think my answers through to give you a much more concise way to go about doing things. But before I go anywhere, let me to remind you, as always, that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who's got a little monokuma on their pocket. Yeah! Silliness out of the way. I've prepared the randomized table, I've got your questions, I've got my answers, let's dive right in. The first question of the day goes a little bit like this. Do you have any advice for us NaNoWriMo newbies that may get burnt out halfway through the month? Short answer, yes, I do have some advice. Long answer, timer on. For anyone out there who's trying National Novel Writing Month for the first time, I have a couple of pieces of advice. The first one is this. NaNoWriMo is not a contest. I know that people sell it like a contest. I know that people talk about it like it's this enormous competition. It's not. 50,000 words doesn't make a novel. 50,000 words is an arbitrary number to get you to write. That's what it is. And everyone out there is like, I didn't manage 50,000 words. I managed 30,000 words, so I am a failure. And Can you hear the anger in my voice? NaNoWriMo is about building the habit to write. Even if it's 100 words every night, you are making the habit. That's all that matters. Because the people out there who write 50,000 and then stop writing on December the 1st may have as well not written anything. Building the habit is the most important thing when it comes to writing, because once you have that, nothing can stop you. You can just keep writing until you finish the book. And finishing books is the most effective way of growing your craft. Don't worry about the numbers, just keep writing. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a day off if real life is getting to you, or if you're just tired. It's okay. You have school, you have life, you have work. There are a lot of things in your head. It's okay to stop for a day. You don't have to write every day. You don't have to worry about those numbers. Just write. Just write. Oh, and don't worry about completing a novel in 30 days. That's not what this entire month is about. It's about making the habit to write. That's it. So there you go. Focus on the writing. Focus on just telling this story, and because ultimately, I want you all to keep writing through December. Keep writing. It's the only way you're gonna finish stories. Just keep writing. And I know that it's daunting once the month is over to keep writing, but that's what I'm here for. And if you want me to keep yelling at you and give you more inspiration, I am more than willing. Leave it in the comments below, and I may even make that a new series. Who knows? Max yells at you to follow your dreams. Silliness out of the way. As one more little tip before I let you go, because the timer's about to go off. If you're starting NaNoWriMo for the first time, and there's gonna come, and if you're mostly new to my videos, and if you made an outline, here's my piece of advice, okay? The outline means nothing. The outline is merely just what you thought would happen in the story. It's not the Bible, it's not set in stone, it's not the recipe, the bones, the structure, the blueprint for your story. It's none of those bloody things. It's just what you thought maybe would possibly happen in the story. That's it. The outline is gonna go out the window really quickly, really fast. That's okay. Play it by ear, trust in your characters, and just see where the story goes, okay? Is it scary? Is it daunting? Of course it is. It's terrifying to let go of control. But you gotta keep going, okay? The story that your characters are going to tell to you, including the narrator, by the way, even if it's third person omniscient, that narrator is a character. The story they're gonna tell you is much more meaningful than anything you could have manufactured on your own. Follow them, they know where the story's going, and see where it takes you, okay? As for the next question, do you think a book can be a successful standalone even with a sequel hook that doesn't result in a series? I don't think I've ever given a negative response to a question. Timer on. First off, do I think anything can be successful? I don't know. I don't have the recipe for success. I don't think there is such thing. And if I knew it, I certainly wouldn't be living on this house I made out of wood. I would be living in a house made out of gold or something. What would I do if I had all that filthy money? I'll live in a stupid mansion. A ridiculous mansion. Like a bouncing house. Yeah, it's like a bouncing house, but it's a mansion. Anyhow, that's unrelated. I'm rambling, mostly because I don't have much to say about this question. Here's the dealio. Let's change the words a little bit to make this question a little bit more palatable. That sounds mean. That's not what I mean, okay? Follow me along on this one, okay? Take my hand. I'll take you there. Do I think a story can be successful if at the end it ends with a hook for a sequel that doesn't actually ever exist? Writing a book, telling a story, is creating a relationship with your reader. And when you write that story, you're basically, the reader is putting emotional coins into that bank account because they're trusting you, because they are allowing the story to make them feel things. It's allowing the story to not only take their time, their money, but also take their emotions and maybe play with them. Maybe make them feel things that they don't like fear and sorrow and sadness, you know? But you can also make them feel good things like happiness and joy and laughter and things that come from a story's completed, climax, There are good things, there are bad things, but we're paying money to feel things. That's what stories are about. You're paying money to feel things. And when the reader, they're putting emotional coins into this bank account, and it's very easy to make huge deductions. And I'm not a big fan of ending a story with a sequel hook. If there's no sequel hook plan, that to me is just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. It could still be entirely successful. Who knows? I don't know. I would be living in a bouncing house if I had the recipe. But as a reader, if I made it to that final point, and it's like, oh my god, I gotta know what happens next, there is no sequel. The author is not planning on making a sequel. And that's just heart-wrenching. I'm thinking right now, Martian successor Nadesico. That's an anime that's never gonna have a sequel, with a movie that only made the story worse. Ugh. If you have seen Martian successor Nadesico, the anime and then the movie, leave a comment in the comments below. Just like raise his hand or something. That movie's terrible. It's not that it's badly written. It's greatly written, but it just rips your heart out, and there's no sequel to that that's ever gonna come out. And that I'm just sitting here like angry because I put emotional coins into that bank account, and the writers were just like, we're just gonna run away with your money, with your emotional bucks, and that's just heartbreaking, I don't know. I think you got kind of like with any relationship, like if I promised this person that we would have a relationship and then I didn't, it would make me look like a bad person. I would probably hurt that person's feelings. It's probably not the best metaphor, but I think you know where I'm coming from. I would rather the story be completed. I think a completed story stands alone on their own better than just a sequel hook, You know what I'm saying? That's just what I think, though. Next question! Also, before I move on any further, it's very convenient that I brought up Martian successor Nadesico, because that's an anime that I really liked. Really odd anime, really weird, but really interesting characters, and a movie that it twists the knife really hard, because it's the idea of like, you have characters who are, like, oh, this character's dream has now been destroyed. That's bad. But what happens when a character's dream is annihilated? So just a character who had a dream of doing something, and that dream is never, ever, ever, ever going to happen. And I'm not talking about like, oh, the thing they wanted no longer exists. No, they have lost the ability to achieve the thing that they wanted to do. That's terrifying. Also, I like that anime so much that I bought whatever merch I could find. And here is Martian successor Nadesico, Mahjong for the Game Boy Color. I don't play Mahjong, and I can't read Japanese, but I wanted this because I love that anime so much. Martian successor Nadesico. R.I.P. Anyhow, last question for the day. I was wondering, how do you keep your protagonist's internal musing from becoming too repetitive? Whenever I say the following line, just take a shot. Who told you that was wrong? Who put those ideas in your head? I always find that somebody out there told you, hey, your character's musing sounds too repetitive, or A characters with internal musings always sound repetitive. Someone out there put this idea in your head, and I want you to question it, to question why they put it there, and if you actually believe that. Here's my dealio. Like, I have never in my history as writing or doing feedback have run into a situation where I thought that internal dialogue was repetitive. I mean, I guess if we're doing like a first-person story, then maybe I see that. Like a present tense story. I could see that as repetitive. I was like, I do this, I do that, this happens next. I would understand that, but that's mostly a format thing than anything else. But of course, I can't just dodge your question. How would I keep a protagonist's voice from sounding too repetitive? I'll give you the piece of advice that I give everyone and stuff like this. Write the darn thing, let it sit, review it, and if you think that it's still repetitive, show it to somebody else. Because when the story's up here and when you know everything about the story, we become really hyper aware of the details. And they become these enormous things that are actually probably not even that big. Getting feedback from someone else means a lot. And you don't have to give them the whole book. Just give them like this passage and ask them, hey, is this too repetitive? Because here's the dealio. There's a quote, and look it up. It's called "This sentence has 5 words." Look up that quote. I forget who it is. It's Stephen Proft's? I forget who it is. But there's this famous quote, and he talks about how writing is kind of like music, and how syllables are kind of like words can have a cadence to them. And much like with music, repetition is part of creating rhythm. And I'm a big fan of repetition. I'm a big fan of having sentences that appear every once in a while as though to drive a point or to remind the reader, what's really going on. I like repetition. I like short sentences because that's kind of the music I make. As always, question where you got these ideas, who put them in your head, and if you agree with them. You may agree with them or you may disagree with them. It's okay. You're a person of your own and you deserve to make your very own writer's toolbox. And maybe you realize that was a judgment call on a very particular writing piece and it doesn't really apply to every part of writing. I have personally never run into a situation where I thought in internal dialogue was repetitive, because internal dialogue is inherently human. And sometimes we are repetitive, but unless you have a whole block of inner dialogue that is the same sentence repeated, I have trouble seeing the source of this question. But then again, what do I know? If you have a follow-up to this, I would love to hear it. And of course, if you have your very own thoughts on the questions that we tackled today, please feel free to leave your thoughts on the comments below. And as always, if you have questions of your own, please leave them in the comments below as well, and I will add them to the list of questions. There are still quite a few, and I'm going to be getting through them over the next couple of weeks. For the time being, though, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.